Let's talk about the benefits of retiring in Florida. I've discovered there's a few that I did not think about, especially for those who have a little extra cash at the time of retirement. You're going to want to know some of these things. Maybe you already have a great accountant and you already know. So I was doing a little research about retiring in Florida, and it is one of the best places in the country, in the United States, to retire. Of course, there's a lot of other great places to retire, and for different reasons. So it's up to you where you think is the best place for you to retire. Many people like to retire in different countries where their dollar gets stretched much further, like Costa Rica, Panama. Matter of fact, I ran into a woman who was from Canada and had a house in Florida. She sold both properties and moved to Panama with her husband. Yes, there's good and bad areas in every country and every city in this world, so I know I'll have somebody say, but it's dangerous. There's always a dangerous area. It doesn't matter what city, like I said, or state or country you're in, so you just have to do your research. Some people go off to Portugal or Spain, again, because rents are much cheaper. But Florida is one of the best states to retire in if you're here in the United States and you want to stay in this country. There's a few reasons, and I always knew that there was no income tax here, but I did not realize that there are no death taxes and there's no inheritance taxes. But also there's other benefits regarding your assets, if you have any, or if you're a person of means. It's something that you probably already know, because most likely you have a good accountant. Even if you don't think you have a lot of money, it's a good idea to have an accountant. I know a lot of you try to do your own taxes to save money, and that's great, but I personally find, for me, that it's good to have an accountant, because they can keep up with the changes that happen every single year. Every year there's changes that we, the regular people, don't know about. So unless you're an accountant who's really into this and keeps up with every little bit of the changes that happens, it'd be hard to keep up with. If you do purchase a home in Florida, I do know there's a Homestead Exemption, and I believe it's up to $50,000, the first $50,000. But if you're over 65, I think you get additional $25,000 of exemption. Again, that could change at any time. So again, an accountant would know these things. But that's the last that I've heard. And again, just keep an eye out for that. But that's a big deal. It's a lot of saving. You'll find a lot of estate planning attorneys and accountants and wealthy people and movie stars who live down here, or who at least have their first or main primary residence in Florida. But in order to get all these benefits, you'll have to have a primary residence. And in order to say that it is a primary residence, because we do have a lot of snowbirds who live up north, they come down in the winter, but to get these benefits, you'd have to spend 183 days of the year in Florida. Now, I don't know if that's consecutively or just throughout the whole year. I'm not sure, but I did read that, so I thought that was interesting, something I did not know. Now I know. So some of the things that you should probably do if you want to prove that you are a resident for that amount of time is, one, of course, get your driver's license. Two, you want to get yourself a library card. You'll want to open a bank account here in the area that you plan on living. You'll also want to get yourself a doctor. I mean, prove that you live here. You register to vote, and from my understanding, you can't have the other place where you live as a primary residence. So if your other place is not a primary residence, I'm not sure if you can have a driver's license up there. I do not think so. And I do not think that you can be registered to vote in this other place if you want Florida to be your primary residence. Again, check with an attorney, check with an accountant. This is just some of the things that I've come across, that I've learned, and things change, so I don't want you to take this all, as a matter of fact, but it may be outdated by the time you see this video. I think many of us already know the benefits of retiring in Florida, especially those of you who are planning on retiring here later, or you're retired and you moved here, or you moved here, you're not retired yet, but you plan on staying here. And if you came from the north, we've been shoveling snow You know you don't have to do that down here. You know you don't have to dress in layers of clothes. I remember going out to get the mail, I'd have to put on my long johns and my big boots, and of course all the layers of clothes and the hat, the gloves, and fight the wind and the ice and hope to God I wouldn't fall on the ice and into the snow. It was just such an ordeal, especially when we lived in the country. Our mailbox was about 200 feet away from our house. That was not fun. There are other great places to retire in this country. Arizona is one of them that many people like. But for me, I love the water, and being in Florida, that's the other benefit. If you're a water person, no matter where you are, you're gonna run into water. So if you live in the center of Florida, you should be able to get to the coast within an hour, hour and a half on either side. Water's everywhere. We have lakes, we have canals, we have the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico. So there's plenty of water, and there's water sports galore here. People like to kayak, canoe, fishing is huge. We have national competitions down here for that. So if you're into fishing, this is the place to be. The list goes on. Any kind of water sport you can think of, snorkeling, scuba diving, we have it here. Boating. Lately, I tell you, a lot of boats have been out. I think because the economy is doing a bit better for a lot of people, they can afford to put gas in their boats, because for a few years there after the crash, we did not see any boats out there in the Gulf of Mexico, and now we see them buzzing around all the time. So that's good to see. Florida is a very large place, so there's something for everyone. I did get a comment from someone saying they hate how all the houses are so close to each other. I'm not sure if they live here or if they vacation here, but Florida is a huge place, so you can't say I hate Florida or I hate how close all the houses are, because a city may have all the houses right on top of each other. You move away into the suburbs. We lived on a quarter acre in Sarasota County. Our neighbor had a half an acre, and I have another friend who lives inland who has 10 acres. So, and there's other people with hundreds of acres in Florida, so there's something for everybody. Now, if you don't like the heat, then Florida's not for you. If you're just somebody who just feel like, you know, you can't breathe, you don't like it, you don't like the humidity in the summer, and you just don't like it, you prefer mountains, then, you know, Florida's not for you, and that's okay. Carolinas are beautiful, but I was really talking about retiring today and benefits, mainly financially, but also just the overall way of living. I find living in Florida to be much easier because A, we don't have to shovel snow in order to get dressed as you get older. As you get older, it gets quite tiring to go through all that. And I notice there's a lot of services. People who will come to your home to walk your dog, wash your car, fix your car, you name it, come to your house to cook for you. If you have the money, there's a service that will cover everything and anything you want. So that's pretty good. I'm sure many other states have that as well, but because there's such a large population of people retiring, the services here are really focused on people who want help. So I really like that it's out there if I need it. The other thing too is we have lots of hospitals and doctors in the Tampa area. We have a cancer research center, you've got the cancer hospital, you've got the trauma center. They bring in helicopters if there's a car accident on the highway a bit further away. They'll, you know, take the helicopter, get the patient from the car accident and fly them into the head trauma in Tampa, and I'm sure Orlando and the bigger cities, Miami and all the other bigger cities have the same. So that's good to know that you have someplace to go. The older you get, the more problems physically, health-wise you'll probably get. I know many of you prefer living in a cabin in the woods, far away from everybody, maybe even off the grid. And I totally get that. I understand. And you may not want to see a doctor and just want to not deal with that. But even though a lot of us would like to live in the woods away from a lot of people, we also find that having the conveniences really is nice. It's nice to know that if we were to have a heart attack or a stroke or something, that within minutes we've got help. So that's something that a lot of seniors are looking for is, you know, health care. So we have lots of that. And what's really nice is that if you're retiring, I don't plan on ever retiring. I plan on working forever as long as I can do it online. I plan on doing that. even if you plan on working forever, it's also nice to know that there's other things you could do, like volunteering at a place that you're really interested in. If you like the arts, you could volunteer at the museum or the opera house or at the cat dog shelter or homeless shelter, anything like that. We have plenty of places that could use help use volunteers, so that's something nice that you can do. I also get comments where people think that living in Florida is very expensive. Now, first of all, it all depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from Kentucky, Iowa, out in the middle of where there's not a lot of commerce, and you're living on a very affordable budget, then it may be expensive to move anywhere else other than where you are. If you're coming from the north, northeast, if you're coming from New York City, New York in general, New Jersey, Ohio, anywhere, it could be less expensive or it could be comparable. Florida has, I think, a place for everybody. You've got lower income and you have the very wealthy. So there's something for everybody in between. You just have to find out where that is. Of course, the closer you get to the ocean and the Gulf, the more it usually is. The closer you live to the city, the more it is. The further away, the suburbs, the more affordable housing would be. So as we approach our retirement years, we have to decide if we still want that big house. And if you do, it's going to cost more, so you may want to live away from the city, away from the hospitals a little bit. If you want to downsize and live in something much smaller, even a 55 plus community, you could live in a smaller place, but be in maybe a better location where you're closer to everything. It's nice being near colleges as well, because seniors, as you know, maybe you know or don't know, you can attend classes, non-credit or credit. It's never too late to go back to college, but it's fun learning something new. And the colleges always have something to offer to keep learning, especially technology. As it changes, we have to kind of change and learn along with it. There's the Arts Center, if you're into the arts or arts and crafts. There's more to be offered, I think, the closer to the city you get, but not everybody likes the city. So if you're not into living in the city, that's okay, just to live a bit further. So you get to decide where in this world that you want to live. But there are a lot of financial benefits of retiring in Florida, so that's something you'll want to think about and maybe do more research, because there's probably a lot more that I don't even know about. But I've been learning that there's a lot more than I ever thought about. And after traveling around this country last year, I noticed that every state is very different. And Florida is definitely very, very different from other states. The birds are different. It's like being in a tropical zoo, hearing the birds chirping and seeing alligators and different type of animals. The weather's different. Everything's different. Florida is very large and it's all very different. I know that up in the Pensacola area where we were living in the Panhandle, feels more like the South. Southern hospitality, it was very nice. It was not as crowded as I had thought it would be. It was a lot of country. So if you're into that, that's a nice area to be. Still, you're near the ocean. It's definitely cooler than South Florida, Southwest Florida. The Keys, for example, that's completely different than, say, Tampa area. Miami, I haven't been to Miami, but it's definitely a place I would like to visit. I would even live there if I get a chance. But I really like it in Pinellas County, Tampa Bay area, all of Southwest Florida. I really like it. The weather's nice and warm. That's one of the top things for me. One of the other benefits of retiring in Florida are all the airports besides Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Miami, Fort Myers, Sarasota. I can go on. It's really nice that there's airports everywhere, because I know many of you have grandkids that are up north and kids that are up north working, and you want to retire down here. But you could just jump on the plane and be up, say, from Tampa to Ohio. Cleveland was about 2.5 hours, I think, so that's not far at all. So you just jump on a plane, and if you want, you can just drive depending on where you are, but plane rides are quick. So you can see your family, and you'll probably see your kids more than you do up north. They have an excuse to come down for vacation, and maybe you'll see them even more than you do up north. Who knows? Every family's a little different, but It's really nice. People always are coming down to visit. So when your kids and grandkids come down to visit, there's a lot to do. You've got Busch Gardens, you've got Disney World, you've got the zoos, of course you got beaches galore, parks. We have great parks in Florida, and they all have really nice bathrooms. Most of them do anyhow. So I really appreciate that, as I'm sure most of you will as well. And if you decide to buy a house, you can grow your own lemon trees, lime trees, banana trees, mango trees, kiwi trees, or bushes. I don't even know what they grow on. But people have lots of those tropical, subtropical plants in their yards, front yards, backyards. And you can even grow them on your patio. We're on the search for miniature dwarf type of citrus plants. So if we find some, I'll show you, and we want to put it on our patio. So we'll see what happens with that. Back to the finances, I talked about the no income tax. I talked about not having inheritance tax, death tax, but also your Social Security, IRAs, they don't get taxed here in Florida as well. That's a big deal. So again, do your research and find out all the other things, because if you were leaning towards retiring in Florida, that type of thing might push you over. I'm not trying to say you should definitely move to Florida, because again, it's not for everybody. You may want to stay up north near your family. You may prefer the weather where you live. But if you are planning on moving to Florida, these things on that list, as far as finances go, might make the decision for you. And the last thing I'll talk about are the cruises. We would definitely like to try a cruise. We have not done it yet, but everybody loves going on the cruise ships. And I didn't want to go on them because you've heard about the norovirus problems that the ships have had, and I'm also afraid that I might get seasick and all that type of thing. But I'm going to try it one of these days. And what's really cool about Florida is you can jump on a ship here in Tampa, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and I'm not sure what else, but it's easy to get to any of those ports. It's definitely a plus if you're a person who likes to travel and have time to try something new. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up, please share, don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, don't forget to live passionately.